It's funny. I know.
Ground ball. McClain, second. 12 in a row. The oldest team in professional baseball has its 5th ever winning streak of a dozen straight.
Our job every day is to try to kick somebody's ass. I mean, that's why we're here.
That is caught. Left center. Reds win.
And this ball is launched high and very deep to right, long gone. It's second of the night. Elly De La Cruz. Short lead for Pena. Larkin drills it. Do you believe this? It's going to be gone. Back to back. Walk-off home runs. How about this? Cabrera is back. He's back. He's back.
And a swing and a drive. Deep left field. This one belongs to the Reds. Swung on and hit deep to left field. That ball is going to be gone. Home run. And the Reds put it tied to 4.
Goes to second one. Around to first. Got a double play. And the Reds sweep the Cubs. Breaking ball. Hit high. Hit deep. Way back there. And gone into the second deck and left. Christian Encarnacion Strand walks it off.
Archer does it in his major league debut. He gets the final 3 outs, and the Reds get an extra inning win. A thriller 5-4.
Swung on. Fly ball. Hit to deep right field. That ball is going to be gone. A grand slam home run by Mike Cabrera.
2 outs, 2 on. Reds down by 1.
Larkin down the line. It's a winning. It's a winning. Here comes Tucker. Here comes Steins. Larkin's won the game. Barry Larkin gets mobbed. Look at this scene. It's synergy.
The stretch, the pause and the pitch. And a line drive, base hit left center field. A single for Aaron Boone. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won 8 in a row.
Kobayashi with a long look, turns it loose, and Dunn hits it to deep right. It's all over. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won their 5th game in a row. They've defeated the Cleveland Indians on an Adam Dunn 3-run home run, 4-2. In on the corners at first and third. 2 on, nobody out. Here's Royce Ring pitching, no bunt. Ground ball by the third baseman into left field. Dave Bruce rounds third. This one belongs to the Reds.
That's hit pretty good. Guess what? He doesn't need speed. That's gone. He's the king of the Queen City tonight.
With 1 out here in the 11th inning, you sure got to go now.
Swung on, pull down the left field line. That ball is going to get the winning run in. Here comes Dave Bruce rounding third, heading toward the plate. And this one belongs to the Reds.
Huge situation for Votto. Why you paying the big bucks to deliver the goods with 2 outs in the 9th inning? Can he do it? In the gap, right center field, and Votto delivers the goods.
Hit deep center field. Hank Hill going back at the warning track. Oh, it's gone. Joey Votto is delivered.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to another Chatterbox Reds pregame show. Today for April 22nd, 2025. We've got game 2 of a 3-game set between the Reds and the Marlins in Miami. But before we get into that, Alex, let's recap last night's 6-3 loss a little bit. Lodolo, again, struggling to miss bats. Strikeout numbers are low this year. What you got on last night's game, Alex?
Yeah, obviously coming off the high from Easter Sunday, scoring 24. No one expected the Reds to score, much more than 3, obviously. But Max Meyer had it. The guys covered it last night. The dude was just straight dealing. Nothing really you can do. And then it was a little too late. They covered this morning on off the bench. The Alexis Diaz problem. You think about that. How long he went a little long last night, got himself into trouble, and then it was just too little too late. If you're able to pull him out, maybe keep it tighter, do we go to extra innings? So, tough one. There's 162 of them to go. So, in the season, but it's tough to get super frustrated and nitpick every single game. But hopefully we can win the next two and continue to win series.
Yeah, it's hard to be upset when Max Meyer looked that dominant. He had 14 Ks and 6 innings. I believe that's the most strikeouts the Reds have had in a game since Scherzer in 2019 or something like that. So definitely some dominance from Meyer. Like I said, Lodolo, you like to see his strikeout numbers up. I think he's got only 18 strikeouts in 29 innings, which is completely uncharacteristic from a guy like Nick. Past couple of years, he's been a huge strikeout guy. But he's been serviceable so far. I think he's had a great couple starts to start the year. Actually, really good 2 starts to start the year. He had a sub-1 ERA at one point, but that gives me hope that he's able to kind of get through those strikeout issues and kind of become more of a pitch to contact guy. But I'd like to see more of him meeting in the middle there. Also from the offense. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think outside of this past weekend, when you are coming behind Hunter Green, you get compared to Hunter Green. You were drafted, and right. They kind of came up together. So it's tough. Sometimes these guys are just going to be serviceable. But go hit the lineup, and then we'll talk about a couple of guys from last night too.
Yeah, I was impressed with Marte last night. He stayed hot. Another 2 hits from him. He's up to almost 350 average. And as you see in the lineup here, he's kind of forced his way into a little bit of an everyday role. I'll pump the brakes on that a little bit because CES is out, but he's earned that starting third base role so far. He's been really hot. Also Lux, he had his first home run, very promising there. He's been hitting the ball hard. He's had a great last week. He's hitting 520 in his last 25 at bats, so that's doing something there in that 5 spot. But yeah, the offense, it's hard to come out after a 24 run outburst and try to repeat that. But
absolutely,
I'm not too worried about the offense here. My main takeaway is the offense trending up. You're getting some productivity from the bottom of the order. Fraley's been looking good. I'd say the lineup looks a little bit more like what we expected at the beginning of the year, with a little more balanced. And I just look forward to seeing what they can do tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking through the lineup here, just quick, a couple guys that stood out from last night to me. You mentioned it, Noelvi Marte. I think you have to keep buying his stock. It couldn't have been as low as it tanked last year. The guy is still so young, 21, 22 years old. It's like he's got so much runway ahead of him and a high ceiling. Now, what's interesting is I don't care about your ceiling, aka Nick Lodolo versus Andrew Abbott. I don't care about your ceiling if you can't hit the ceiling. But they are starting him over Espinal, and Espinal seems to be a really big fan favorite of Francona and his coaching staff. So that's something to really buy into. Marte must have really opened some eyes on the coaching staff, who I believe have full say on who plays when. I don't think Nick Kroll is telling Francona who to play when. So that's big win for Marte. And then you missed it, but he didn't do much last night, and we'll talk about him later. But Austin Hayes, what a heck of a week.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we've got one for the skipper tonight. I believe it is Terry Francona's birthday, so hopefully we can get a W in the win charts for Terry Francona. But want to move a little bit into some rehab assignments. We've got Tyler Stevenson and Sam Moll both being sent to AAA Louisville Bats on a rehab assignment. What do you think about this? Kind of, what will the roster kind of look like when they get up, or if they get up?
Yeah, absolutely. Moll, I don't think Moll has a spot right now, depending on how Diaz continues. Some people are, torn on Diaz. I don't think really need Moll. He wasn't performing fantastic. They have 2 lefties, one in Rogers and Suter. So it's either Suter or it's Moll, and I don't think Suter's going anywhere. They wouldn't have brought him back if they didn't want him on the team. Then Stevenson, there's been some chatter of the 3 catchers.
Yeah.
I'm totally in on mixing and matching first base DH like they have with Steer, Candelario, and I guess CES/Marte with third base, all that Lux, it's all thrown in there. They're all kind of tied together. You can do that However, who goes down? Someone's got to go down. And I think Sam Pryor, you mentioned Spencer Steer. To me, there's no way. And it's not, I'm a Spencer Steer fan club card member. But you can't send him down now, and you can't IL him now unless something else is different.
Yeah, it just seems too late to do that because, if they would have done it, they would have done it already. And I think he's even churning upwards with his injury. He was on the Jim Day podcast, and he mentioned how, his shoulder feels fine, and that's kind of what you'd expect for a guy to say, all the good things. But, I think it's more of him just missing out spring training, not seeing the ball well, timing, and all that stuff. So I think it's just too late to send Steer down. I think really the only option might be Dunn. Unless if you go with the 3 catcher route, I think the only option would be Dunn. Obviously, if you go 2 catchers, you get Wynns down. But with the way he's been swinging it, until he proves us otherwise, I think you got to roll with 3 catchers because Trevino and Wynns have hit the ball great there in the 8 and 9 hole. And I think they give this offense kind of a huge boost, an unexpected boost.
The one thing I don't know about Wynns, and if someone in the chat could look it up for us, I don't know what his option situation is.
Yeah.
I know he signed a minor league split deal. I believe it was a split deal, which means that he can go up and down, but the options still remain. It's a higher contract if it's a split deal. If memory serves me right, at one point, I think 40-man roster spots, everyone got $80K for the year if they were in the minor leagues. I think a split deal is a little higher. But if he signed a split deal, I don't know how the options work. So that's a big question. If they have to float him through waivers, I don't know. That would play into that. The other thing is now that we're talking about it, Stevenson is your guy.
Yeah.
Now you got to play the hot hand. But how many plate appearances, how much time is Wynns going to actually play? We saw this a couple years ago with Casale, and then all of a sudden he got a toe contusion for 6 months. It seemed maybe it was like 2. Still just a little strange. And I agree with you, Jacob. Wynns has played very well. I don't know how they fit it unless Candelario all of a sudden has a toe contusion like Kurt Casale or gastritis like Kevin Newman. That's the only 2.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, I guess, with Wynns swinging the bat this well. Also, Trevino, you see Trevino in the lineup tonight. Time will tell. Hopefully, Stevenson has a good rehab assignment and get us all excited for it. Hopefully, all 3 of those guys.
No rush. There's no rush either.
Yeah. And that's the good thing about this, too. You don't have to rush them up because the catching spot in the order has been it's been better than I think everyone expected. So,
has anyone complained about it? At this point too, and we'll wrap this up at this point. We've rotated between Fraley. No one's complaining about Fraley anymore. Now we're zeroed in on Candelario, and that's really it. So, I think we should go to the pitching matchup tonight.
Yeah, for sure. We've got Nick Martinez tonight going up against Edward Cabrera. Cabrera's he's a high strikeout guy. Does walk a little bit, throws a lot of balls. He's 3 walks, and he's only got 2 starts this year, but 3 walks in each of those. And the Reds, they've drawn a lot of walks this year. I know they're towards the top of walks drawn in the MLB. So something's got to give there. I'd expect, hopefully, Cabrera walks a lot of Reds here. Hopefully we get some discipline at bats because Cabrera is kind of a young arm who he throws a lot of off-speed stuff, a lot of change-ups and curveballs. Got a sinker there too, but yeah, I just think walks are going to play a huge part in this. And then Martinez also, he's only gone, I don't think he's gone past 5 2/3 in his last 3 starts. So I know both you and I agree that for him to give us some length would be huge. Him reaching that 3rd part of the order seems to be his struggle here in the past couple of years we've seen him. What do you kind of expect from this pitching matchup tonight, especially Martinez? Yeah,
Martinez, obviously looking forward. I'd rather have 4 dominant innings than just pulling. Great if he has it. I personally just get him out of there. It all depends on the usage there. how many guys. I know, with Sunday was one thing. And then last night went through a few guys. So whoever's available, if you can, to me, I would really prefer 5. If he gets through 5, I'd pull him. And you know that, DJ and Tito are talking the same thing right now. They're hoping the longer, the better, of course. Honestly, I'm very concerned about the Marlins pitcher. The Marlins really have done a good job developing pitching.
Yeah.
They really have. If you go back all the way to Jose Fernandez, that's been quite a few years, but Sandy Alcantara, I believe they had another Rogers kid, not related to our Rogers, who they traded to Baltimore last year for the infielder Norby. The Reds were interested in him as well. I think it got a little too expensive. But Alcantara, who was also part of a trade, Cabrera, Max Meyer, they can develop some pitching.
And we can thank them for Castillo too.
Absolutely. Yes. Can't forget one of their best that got away for the immortal Dan Straley.
Yeah.
But that's what scares me when we play them. And their ballpark is just so big that it's just hard to get one out. So I'm a little nervous about tonight. They need to pull it out. And I think you spelled it out. They can, and it comes down to 2 things. Getting deep into the counts, as always, and then Martinez going 5 solid. I think if you can get that, I think we're good.
And I like how you mentioned that kind of 5-inning mark. In a lot of his starts, he's looked pretty good. The first couple innings, first time through. I just think he might show all his pitches a little too early. A lot of guys, they like to go fastball, curveball, or whatever the first time through the order, and then they introduce the changeup later on. I think he might have that bullpen mentality with just throwing all his stuff all at once. So then second and third time through, they've seen that. They've seen all his stuff. So, yeah, 5 innings. I don't think they're going to make the mistake of rolling him out there too far because they've done that too many times this season. And
another note, though, on Nick Martinez, he's from Miami. So I'm sure he's got some family and friends in the building tonight. I'm sure really wanting to play well. So, heck, maybe he will give us some good dominant innings, maybe go 6-7 innings just because he's near family and wants to show out.
Let's hope for that.
And it's a bigger ballpark.
Yeah.
A lot's what's got him in trouble is a couple wall scrapers here and there. Maybe they don't go out in loanDepot Park, excuse me.
There you go. All right. What do you say we get into the lineup for tonight? We've got more. Yeah, we've got Friedel, McLean, Elly, first 3, and then Hayes there at the 4th spot hitting DH. Gavin Lux in left field. Candelario at first. Marte again at 3rd, like we said. And then Fraley and Trevino at 8 and 9. Alex, what do you got on the lineup tonight? Kind of what do you expect to see?
Yeah, we've said this the last few weeks. I think this is the lineup. There's no arguing about Elly batting 1st or 2nd. So that's just where it is. I've really been impressed with Austin Hayes so far. There's in no way is he interested in an extension, but I am. So if Austin Hayes is interested in signing an extension with the Reds, his people can call my people. And then I'll somehow get a hold of Nick Kroll. So really a big fan. Gavin Lux,
we were on for his debut, and I remember we said, just give us good at bats. Don't expect any home runs. And what do you know? He hits a home run. So all he's done since he's been with the Reds is hit the ball hard. So,
well, and in fact, if you look up that home run in MLB Savant, it was a home run in only one ballpark. Great American Ballpark. And then Gavin Lux has been fantastic, like you mentioned earlier. I have him batting over 300. Of course, Austin Hayes over 400 for the year. So, obviously, they're not 24 runs good, we know. But I think they are. It's a affordable lineup who can score. And with this pitching staff, they can score 5 or 6 runs a game. They'll be fine. But that's not, they're also high strikeout too.
Yeah. And then I know we mentioned him a little bit earlier, but Jake Fraley's hitting, I believe, 333 in the last week with 2 home runs. And those 2 home runs, that's great to see. We hadn't seen any power from him in the last calendar year, at least, really since 2023. And that's huge for the bottom of the order, especially with Marte hitting it well. Trevino, like we said, he's been a good bat. So I just love seeing Fraley do well. I know pretty much everyone was down on him towards the beginning of the season, but it's really huge to have Fraley be there everyday right fielder. Because I know a lot of people were calling for Benson, but it seems like Tito's going to roll with Fraley, and he's proven that that's the right decision.
Yeah, and Dusty Baker used to do the same thing. He wait on these guys to get hot, and his patience would pay off. So we'll see. It does look like Fraley's came around a little bit, now batting .250, and that's fantastic.
That's big because he couldn't get a hit. He couldn't buy a hit to start the season. So 250 is definitely impressive. He's like I said, over 300 the last week or so. So he's swinging a hot bat. All right. I just think.
What do you think about the Marlins lineup? We don't touch about them most weeks. Is there any guy over there that you're like, hey, they're a no name, but kind of one that you're looking at tonight?
I'm gonna have to get it pulled up here.
I'll go ahead and answer the. I'll give you a few seconds here.
You got an answer in mind?
Yeah, easy to say this because of how well he started out. I have 2 guys. Xavier Edwards started out like a ball of fire.
Yeah, I would have said him just looking at their lineup.
And he's also, to me, a Reds killer. In my head, I see him scoring a late run, I think last year during a big series, and it's burned in my brain. The other guy, former Cubs farmhand, Matt Mervis, he's already has 6 home runs. And I mean, he can't, his average is just terrible, but the dude has straight power. And against a guy like Nick Martinez tonight, who's given up a couple fly balls, that kind of gives me a little worried. Those are the 2 guys tonight.
Yeah, Jesus Sanchez always scares me too. He's a smooth swinging lefty. It just seems like every at bat he can go 500 on you. He's just one of those intimidating lefty bats. But like you said, Xavier Edwards at the top of their lineup. I believe he had a cycle last year. So he's just one of those sneaky good hitters. He got off to a great start. I remember Reds faced him in his first couple weeks in the bigs, and he was batting, north of 300. So he's just a steady hitter at the top of their lineup. Hopefully Martinez can, get through him, not give up too much damage. But yeah, they're not too scary of a lineup, but they've got some sneaky hitters for sure.
Hey, Sam, one thing we didn't touch on earlier, because we got a few minutes here, and it broke a little late after we had done some of our notes, was the Wade Miley. Do you, over under, does Wade Miley pitch 1 inning for the Reds this year?
Gosh. I'm going to have to say under. I just don't think he can. I just think he's completely reliant on, injuries. And I don't want to hope for any injuries because, I think with the rotation they have now, with also Louder down in the minors, Burns, everyone is not really sure about if we'll see him yet. But I know a lot of people are hopeful that we might see Burns this year. But I just don't see really a pathway for Miley to break the big league roster without, 2 or 3 injuries. Do you think he will?
So I've gone back and forth. I don't know. So his opt-out is like June 1st.
Yeah.
So we've got a month. They'll try to probably do a month of like rehabbing. So a lot can happen in a month. But like you mentioned, we have Green, Lodolo, Singer, Martinez, Abbott. Everyone's talked about the easy one is move Martinez to the bullpen. Do we get Louder up here when he's good? Or and healthy, or was Wade Miley an option? Yeah. Is Wade Miley better than Nick Martinez? I don't know. And then also I think the Reds also knew going in, they didn't have enough innings. None of the guys except Singer could pitch a full season or be ready for like a postseason run. Is there a possibility they could renegotiate Miley? But you also know other teams are going to be after Miley for pitching depth as well if he's healthy and pitching well on his rehab assignments. which is really going to be the key. I guess I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna add a slight difference. I hope he doesn't pitch for the Reds. Not to say I don't like him. I loved watching him. I remember watching his no-hitter. But that means there's injuries. And if we have injuries to this starting staff, I would rather just say, you know what? Burns, Louder, you're ready. Then if we feel like we have enough depth, then you could trade from the starting staff, which is still something I'm not really interested in doing until we have to.
Yeah, and when you listed all those pitchers, I don't know if did you mention Spires too? Because he's a guy that I have ahead of Miley. Because if a guy gets hurt, I think you go to Spires first because
and Spires is on the IL, but we'll see. I don't think that's too serious. But yeah, you're right. Spires would be ahead of Miley, so it's going to be interesting to what they pull here. And Carlton says it right here in the chat. Burns is going to get shut down eventually. I think the Reds' plans with Burns, they won't say it. I really think that they're going to slow roll it, and especially now because I think it's 6-man rotations in the minor leagues. They can have a little more runway because of how their schedule is. They don't play Mondays. So they have 6 guys in rotation Tuesday through Sunday, Monday off. I think they can lessen innings that way. And then if they really need them, they'll use them in a David Price situation in the bullpen. And another one we forgot about is Chase Petty. Right.
I think he's got a chance too to crack the bigs this season. He's been a great arm in the minors, so
with all that said, like maybe Miley goes to there's a whole bunch of options. I think it really comes down to is the Reds know they need innings. So you bring in a guy like Miley who could start halfway through the year for you and you see what happens. But
all right, Alex, to end the show, I know you've got your little history piece each week. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, our little trivia history question today. We'll let the chat do it. We'll let the chat join in.
Go.
In 1992, the Marlins participated in the expansion draft. So yes, the Marlins were created after the Reds' last World Series championship. In 1992, the Reds had 3 players drafted from their team to the Rockies and the Marlins combined. So out of both teams, they chose 3 players. Which player did the Marlins select from the Reds farm system? They selected 1 Red. The Rockies selected 2. Which player from the Reds farm system did the Marlins select in the expansion draft? We'll give the chat a few minutes here or a few seconds to respond.
I don't have a guess. That's all I know.
Oh, you're going to be devastated.
Okay.
Went on to have a fantastic career with not the Marlins, but with the Padres, actually.
Gosh.
It is not Justin Kenner. This guy did not pitch a no-hitter. One of the best relief arms of all time, Trevor Hoffman.
Okay.
So, and Mike Hart, you threw in Jeff Conine. Jeff Conine was not drafted in the expansion draft. But the Reds, a funny Reds trivia question for everyone. Jeff Conine wore number 19 and was the last player to wear number 19 before Joey Votto wore it later the same season. So
you've got all the Reds nuggets.
Yeah, the Reds traded Jeff Conine to the Mets for 2 prospects, and then a week later they called up a young first baseman named Joey Votto.
Went on to have a pretty good career.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to like the stream. It helps us out a bunch. Michael here says likes equal wins. It's not scientifically proven, but hey, it could be true. So I'm Sam Keithley, and this is Alex Wallace. Thank you guys for watching the Chatterbox Reds pregame show, and go Reds. Make sure to tune in to the postgame show tonight. Thank you.